So recently, I ran an event on personal development workshops that help people essentially develop good habits and help you kind of understand what are the most successful people and the people are essentially like billionaires and millionaires, what they do in terms of their habits and what they do day to day life. So in this workshop, I was essentially kind of narrowing down or distilling what I've learned over the last 10 years, so that anyone can develop valuable and positive habits in their life that get them good results. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you take some notes and keep attention to it. I think you will learn some valuable stuff from that workshop session. Okay.
So let me start with a little bit introducing a little bit about what I've been doing over the last while. Let me see if everybody can see. Yeah. So yeah, I've been working in the tech industry for 7 years. I think it's a little bit now, a little bit longer than that. I feel like it's a little bit closer to 8 or 10 years now. And in those years, I've been working with various professionals in various fields. So that's kind of what gave me the idea to focus on helping professionals with personal development and executives. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So, and I actually graduated from University of Toronto, in psychology. Even though I started work in tech, I didn't really have a background in tech. I studied psychology, and then I actually did a lot of personal development stuff, studying courses, doing projects, reading books, a lot of that. And I really wanted to actually get into tech as well, but after I graduated from psychology at that time, there wasn't much jobs available. So, with those all the information I had, then I was able to actually get pretty good grades in university as well. So I started to essentially create a blog, set of articles so that help university students get better grades at that time. So that's kind of what got me started on, writing books, writing articles, creating courses and things like that. And in 2014, I started my essentially my first tech role at Oracle, and I worked there. I worked there as an analyst, technology analyst, and then I worked as a trainer as well there, helping essentially professional, increase their capabilities with various technologies Oracle was offering. So I was working there as a trainer as well, and then I sucks, grew in different I landed different roles, and then finally I landed, before I started my own company, as a director for a top media company in the world called WPP. And this is when I started to interact with a lot of different professionals, executive directors, VPs, and then started to learn how they think, and then started to kind of work with them. And I realized I really was interested more on developing them and developing my skills rather than focusing too much on to the tech side. So I started to focus a lot more on developing and coaching people with leadership, like communication and personal development, things like that. So now what I do is essentially I write books. I write books and publish books, and I'm working on a newsletter right now. I'll send you the link for everyone to join that as well. And I'm working on also courses and workshops just like this for help, professionals and individuals to, increase their skills and capabilities with their work and life. And also I work for as a trainer for companies and executives, and I kind of focuses primarily using my techniques based on, a lot of it is based on evidence-based approach for coaching, and a lot of the other stuff I am also like, if it's not enough evidence, I kind of test it out myself. So there's a lot of mix of different approaches I'm testing, and in the real life practice I would at least, and then bringing it to the people now. So from these kind of workshops, what I'm kind of showing you is essentially, rather than things are being tested, things that have already been tested and proven. So that's what I want to kind of share with you today. So any questions about my experience or anything like that so far? Okay, perfect. So so one of the things that, since I started to work in my career over the last 10 years, that what I've been essentially, researching into what makes certain people, so successful with what they do. How come they can, you know grow in their career, or land the job they want, or land the clients they want, and grow in their roles or in their entrepreneurship. How can they do that with certain other people, and how certain people are much more happier in their lives than the others, and how come certain people achieve their goals, while others don't. So I try to understand why certain people essentially perform better at life, or can do a lot more things, and can achieve better things and more. So I wanted to see if there's a difference, or are we coming pre-built, right? Being able to capable of only achieving certain things. And I realized is that I found there's when I was researching people who are, what I would say highly successful or effective in various fields. I found that there are certain habits and practices these individuals actually follow. So, and these are the ones that I see, when I'm doing my research, even among executives, I'm continuing to see in these patterns over and over again. The best ones seems to follow certain patterns to essentially take care of themselves, and they also know certain information. It seems either they know it purposefully, or because of their family or environment they're in contributed. It could be either one, but what I'm recognizing more and more is that there are certain habits and practices among people who are getting the results they want in life, and living a lot more happier, and achieving their dreams. So again, I'm still kind of learning and practicing these things myself. But one of the things from the people who have where I'm studied so far, they have had success. So I have a story where I kind of used a similar model to do well in university. So when I first started to go to university in my first and second year, I didn't really do too well. I mean, it was my GPA was out of 4, and it was around 2.5, 2.7, 2.8, around that mark. And I realized, I wanted to do really well. I feel like I was actually studying pretty hard, but for whatever reason, I wasn't able to get, cross that, 70, 75 mark. So I couldn't really figure out what I needed to do in my courses in university. So what I started to do was I started to come across, or I started to research or search people who would be getting either 3.9 or 90s in their courses. So essentially a group of individuals, or someone essentially who can tell me, who's essentially getting a 90 or 4.3.9 or around those grades, can tell me what they are doing, in order to get the grades they are getting. So when I was researching, I actually found that when I was in university, it was end of my second year. In the summer, I was actually saying, what, I needed to find a group of individuals who can kind of tell me who's actually top of their field, like getting the best grades, and who can tell me what they're doing. And I started to, follow them, and started to understand what they're doing. And I started to write down what they're doing. How they study for multiple choice exams, how do they create their study plan, how do they study their textbook, everything, like details. I wrote everything down. And and I started to do a little bit at a time, like little bit at a time, not everything, because they gave me, I think, 30 pieces of also advice, and then I wrote it down. And then I started to do a little bit, not everything, because I knew I was not able to do everything he told me. So I started to do a little bit. The first semester I applied that information, I applied that guidance, I was able to get a GPA of 3.4. And then since then, it just kept going and going. And by the time I graduated with university, I graduated with high distinction, and graduated with 3.9 for the last two years because of that advice. So that I realized is like studying the best people in the field is one of the best ways actually to learn about how to essentially climb that field, right, or accelerate yourself in that field. So studying the best people in the field. So that's one of the best models I learned from these individuals, is that learning from the best is one of the best ways you can essentially master your skills and advance in your field. So one of the first things. So I decided to do the same thing when it comes to personal development and business and career. So that's what I've decided is essentially, I mean, I'm practicing these exact habits and practices that I'll be showing you about, and also and I'm going to be talking about how to essentially for you to apply them in your life as well. Okay. So essentially, these are the eight ones that when I was essentially researching, billionaires. I talk about some of the people who have researched billionaires, millionaires, personal development experts, everyone. So there are specific ways. So even though these are more general titles, there are specific ways to kind of accomplish these things inside. So that's one of the things that we will be talking about. So, in order to kind of like narrow down, what I consider to be, success people, even consider, people who could be contributing either through entertainment or contributing to the world through entrepreneurship and through business. So, any field I really considered, and then I wanted to see, who would I consider to be on the top. So, there's some of the habits that I learned actually are from Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey, Elon Musk, Steph Curry, LeBron James. So these are some of my favorite people to kind of follow and see what they're doing, kind of to understand their mindset, like how do they actually see, not necessarily their practices necessarily, but to understand like how do they see the world, how do they, what type of habits do they have. So that's why I kind of examined and started to make comparisons and started to recognize a specific pattern. And I realized, like I said before, studying the best is the best way to become the best. So one of the main things I recognize about them is that they have a uncanny ability to kind of develop, know what habits that are good for you and started to develop them. So one of the things that I really like to use example is LeBron James, is because he didn't have a privileged life coming up, but he developed over time really positive habits like working hard, working out, and setting goals and things like that. So one of the main things I realized about successful people, they have some sort of a system to develop habits, even though they might not be 100% successful. Knowing and having a system to develop positive habits, it's key, right? So one of the main ways that I've kind of tested out with my clients to figure out, I'll talk about more, obviously, more positive habits and things like that. But if you do have, so even some of the habits that we will be talking about in this session, if you want to implement them, there are very specific way to do that. So one of the main ones that I can give you example how I started to the practice of journaling, right? So journaling is not something I used to do all the time before, but I realized during my research is a very valuable practice. So instead of journaling, about writing about my life, I started to focus on writing, journaling about what I'm planning to do for the day for about 2 to 3 minutes, right? So starting, making a list of habits you really want to develop, and then starting really small, really small is key. So even when it comes to like exercising, and if you haven't been exercising and you want to get into the habit, start with 3 minutes or 3 sets for the 7 days. And starting really small, it seems to be a really important tactic. And then building consistency over with that small amount is key. And I realize that when I'm doing research is that the level of consistency for your development matters more than level of intensity. So that's something for you to kind of keep in mind when you're developing yourself. So when you're having a hard time developing a specific skill or habit, don't be hard on yourself. Know that it's going to take some time. You need to consciously act on it. And if you fall back, if you stop, start back up again immediately on the habit, especially if they're positive for you, right? because as I can tell you, it's like even small positive habits like goal setting, journaling can have a remarkable impact on your life in the long run. So these are the things that I started to see more and more in people. Okay, so that's a very important one. So people also ask me, like, like, how do I, now I have a bad habit, how do I replace it or get rid of that? The best thing I can tell you is, more than trying to get rid of your bad habit, try to substitute, right, with positive habits. So, if you're, spending a lot of time watching TV, think about joining a dance class, or, joining a sport or something like that. So fill your day with as much as you can things that you are excited for, activities you are excited for. And I had the same problem with actually oversleeping as well. But when I started to like set goals that I really love and really enjoy, I started to wake up to do them in the morning, right? So things like that, right? So that's one of the main things I can tell you, when it comes to developing positive habits and letting go of bad ones, is to really fill your day with positive habits that you really do enjoy, and then keep expanding them throughout your day, and then you will start to see a lot of progress and growth in that. Okay, any questions regarding developing positive habits? Okay, so that's a very important skill to learn, like developing positive habits and then starting really small. Okay. And another big one, I would say this is the one that helped me, I would say a lot of, like, for my mental well-being, mental health, and my performance, is like, keeping a journal with me all the time. And this is a common practice I see among many billionaires, actually. Like, I know, when I was reading Bill Gates, I think he had one, Richard Branson had one, Oprah Winfrey. So a lot of people I see who achieve goals or improve themselves tend to have a journal with themselves. And I really didn't see the importance of it. I thought it was a simple thing, just keeping a journal, that's great. But when I actually made it a practice to, write down my ideas, write down goals, simple goals, or actions, or some of the challenges I'm having, I started to see a huge difference in my mental state. Because what I realized is that when you're journaling, and this is something I even tell my clients to do, is that there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of thoughts that trying to get your attention in from your conscious mind. And when all of them are working like alarm clock trying to get your attention, that creates a state of overwhelm, right? Like, so imagine you have about, like, instead of one alarm clock going on, like 10, 20 alarm clocks going on at the same time. So if you have things that you need to complete, things that you need to remember all in your head, it will be very overwhelming for you, right? So that's why keeping a journal, writing, making lists, right? Even if you don't visit them, right? Writing and keeping somewhere that you can leave, is a very important thing. And obviously, writing, we'll talk about how to create, manage your time and task. But this is for more of your mental health and organizing your life, and having, instead of having, sometimes just, you know throwing and spewing all your problems to your friend, you can use a journal to, like, talk about problems you have, the challenges you have, things that you don't know how to do, and then come up with, set of solutions that you can try. So journal have been a big had a big effect in my life, and I can see it is practiced among the best professionals in the world. So, for something for you to remember, and think of it like using your second brain. It's like, instead of trying to keep everything in your mind, keep a journal as a second brain, and then unload things onto that. Okay. Any questions on that? Go ahead, Neha.
Hey, thank you, Dulik. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
So, quick question. So, basically, what happens with me? I do like start a lot of things, and then I taper off.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna talk to you, but I'm gonna tell you a little bit about how to set goals. So, it's a big problem I used to have as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit more about it is, the best things to is, like, how people tend to set 1 year goals, right?
Right.
So, instead of doing setting 1 year goals, I say to, even for my clients, actually, I say them for executive clients, set 90-day goals. right?
Okay.
Like make your goal shorter than, because you might feel like, oh man, I had to get my bum going and then right away. Yeah, that's because sometimes you will see when you have a due date and a due like a deadline, you tend to activate yourself and get things done faster. So even if you feel like you're tapering off even in 90-day period, you can even make it shorter, like no, 30 days, do this project only, get it done, then out, ship it. It doesn't matter the quality, and then improve it if you need in the next 30 days or next quarter, right? So I would say that's kind of the way. So we can talk a little bit more deeper about that. So that's one of the things that I've done, because I realize is like sometimes I said, like, I used to I have a great example on how I did this. Like 2 years ago, like when I started this model where I would do 90 days, 90-day goals, I ended up writing about 4 books in a year. uh, I was going to run 1 book a year because that's what I initially planned. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna just see if it's doable. If it's not doable, fine. It's okay. I'll just move it to the next 90 days. And then I managed to publish. You can see it on Amazon. Yeah, like publish like 4 books in a year. And I was like, wow, that's a very surprising and very effective way to organize. So, and then I didn't really focus on doing too many projects either. I didn't try to do like 6 or 7 projects. I focused on doing like 2 to 3 max, and then making sure they're finishing. Even if it's not 100% finished, that's fine. I just focus on finishing in that 90-day period. And if I need more time, I just rolled it into the next 90 days. So that's kind of something that really helped actually. So, but we'll talk more about that, about like goal setting, because that's a big one. I see a lot of people, a lot of people who are essentially who are successful, they just know how to set goals, and they know how to specifically set what I when I was researching known as lifetime goals or long-term goals. But many people think long-term goals are like 10-year and 20-year goals. I mean, they are right, they are pretty long. But one of the main patterns that I saw when I was doing my research in the highly successful is that they tend to have lifetime goals, right? That they want to, something to contribute to society, or they want to, be a millionaire or whatever it may be, right? They just have lifetime goals. They know what they are. So that's something that I noticed as a pattern as well. And then we'll kind of talk about like this system, because I kind of created this system where, it involves these 3 steps, obviously, where you kind of identify, give you some example on how some of your goals can look like as well. To establish, like, take about 10 minutes to write down your, 25 lifetime goals. So the way I tell people to come up lifetime goals is essentially think about, think that you're 100 years old, right? And think about, what would you have accomplished? What would you love to have accomplished in your 100 years? Right? Maybe it's starting a business and launching products and services, right? And it could be getting married, or it could be really anything, right? Like, what is it that, like, for me, I have things like, I want to be a great husband and great brother, right? And it could be really anything, right? So you kind of start listing them out one, and then instead of keeping in your mind and regretting later, right? Or you couldn't do them, or you didn't think about doing them, focus on writing them. And again, writing your goals have a huge effect on your goals actually, right? So even if you're not fully sure, that's okay. It's kind of right the ballpark. The more, one of the things I noticed about about goals is that the more you attempt to write your goals, the more specific it becomes over time. So if your goals are not clear and you're not really 100% sure how to do it, completely fine. It's a skill on its own that takes a while to develop. What I notice about is that the more you try to write these 25 goals or try to set goals, you become good at it. I know that's a pattern, right? Because when I first started to set goals, it started to stress me out, and it used to overwhelm me, and then I didn't want to set goals. And then what I did is, like, you know what, I would step away and then come back again. Then I looked at it. Okay, what is my favorite one? Okay, work on it a little bit. And then I step away. So it was like that in the beginning. It's only now I'm talking about it like I'm all pro, but it was a lot of struggle in the beginning when I was starting to first set goals as well, because it wasn't really clear if that was the right goal for me. Am I gonna hit it? If I don't hit it, am I gonna feel like a failure because I did set it? So all those questions were there. But again, a pattern I recognize is that regardless, the highly successful, regardless they hit the goal or not, and most of them actually know they know some of them they might not hit it, they still set the goal anyway. So that's just something for you to kind of think about, for you to do. Okay, so start with your 25 goals and work with that, and you don't need to come up with all 25 right away, by the way. As long as you can come up with maybe 10, 15, that's all good. And I'll give you some examples as well. Some of these examples, what it could be. Honestly, if you want to find the best way to find the examples, go, if you, some of you probably have used ChatGPT, type in what are some example lifetime goals I should have, and it will give you literally a list of things that you can like think about. Okay, and then the next thing is essentially out of that 25 lifetime goals, you select number five most valuable goals for you. So this is where I think Nihai will answer your questions as well, because when you have too many goals, when we are, if it's going deviating from it, best thing to do is like find your most five favorite goals the first,
Mm.
right? Like don't focus on everything, not because sometimes we think, oh, that would be good for our career. I would say if there are five goals, should like especially the number one goal should, if you were to do it, should have the highest impact in your life. That's why I say when you're picking your number one goal, make sure that by doing that, achieving that, or activating, taking action on that can have a huge impact in your life. For example, like me learning to public speak and doing these workshops, right? So I set a certain number of times to do it, like certain number of workshops to do. So I know it can have a huge impact in my public speaking ability and career, right? So that's kind of what I'm kind of doing. I'm practicing. I'm not trying to get everything right. I'm just trying to see, okay, what can I do to improve? Go from maybe 40% to 42% to 43. How to improve my performance in that way, right? So that's the kind of the mentality. But the five I pick are my favorite five that can have the biggest impact in your life. And this is actually that advice I actually got from Warren Buffett. The regret minimization technique I learned from Jeff Bezos, and then selecting number five, only five, and going after that number five only, I learned from Warren Buffett, because he talks about power of focus. Because if you don't focus on your goals, your attention and your consciousness is too diverted, so you have less strength, right? So that's why it's important to kind of go out of it. Think of it like, if you're in university, you're taking five courses, right? You're taking five course load, right? And you're creating now in your semester, which is a 90-day. So that's what you should do next is a pattern I recognize is creating 90-day plans for each of your five goals. So we'll talk about that on how to do that. Yeah, Neha, go ahead.
Thank you so much for sharing. To be honest, like coming from a culture, like I'm Indian background, so coming from that culture, it's always I have fear of failure,
Right.
even even if it's like a not a actual failure. And
I
like in
know.
my culture, they don't like appreciate smaller goals, so it's
Ah,
something harder for me to overcome. Like, but I'm learning, of course, but I'm just
yeah.
sharing why I feel like, oh my god, I'm not doing enough, or like I just fall off the
Oh,
back.
okay. So basically, what you're saying is like the emotions and the kind of the criticisms from the external world is
Self,
like
yeah,
affecting your
self
motivation and focus, right?
or self, like it's self as well. Like because it's coming from that culture. You're never like motivated since the beginning of time. Like
Hmm.
I'm not bashing that like any culture, but like I'm just sharing how backgrounds may change. You know how
Yes.
you're setting for life, kind of
I
thing.
know it's managing like the expectation, because one of the things I realize is that me coming from my culture as well, like we have preset things that our culture kind of said, no, you should do this, you should do this. If you can, you should not be able to do more than this. And you know what I mean? So even kind of like controls our own goal setting. So that's actually one of the things that interesting you brought up, Neha, because a lot of the time I see a pattern among these highly successful is some of the goals that they set is actually unreasonable. Like, how you hear about smart goals and then
Mhm.
tells you to, I don't know how you interpret it, but tell you to set realistic goals. A lot of these guys don't set realistic goals, like especially Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. They don't set realistic goals really. Their long-term goals are very, very interesting and very extensive, right? Like imagine, like they were thinking about like doing space travel and things like that from a long time ago, right? For us, it's like, oh yeah, they're doing it. But if they were to tell us at that time when they were setting them, we would call them crazy. So that's the thing. Is like one of the things that you don't necessarily need to share your goals, especially if they're not goal setting and in the personal development kind of mentality. You don't need to really share. You kind of have to work in silent, but you do have to, if you ideally you can pick people who can help with your goals and who will encourage you, because honestly the best person who should be encouraging with your goals is you anyway. Because what I'm saying is that when I even tell this to executives is that more than the result itself that you should be congratulating or encouraging you should be look at the volume of effort you have taken to make it happen for you. Because this is where I see the biggest change in extremely high professionals who are effective is basically taking a look at the volume of effort you have thrown at to resolve the problem or to get ahead or to accelerate or whatever, right? So if you can really like see that and like thank that and bless that and congratulate that, that itself is your win. So you probably learn about in psychology. I don't know if you heard it's called locus of control, right? People have either internal locus of control or external locus of control. So people who have internal locus of control, who people who care, believing that they did the right thing, they believe that they took the right actions and efforts, and they congratulate. They tend to stay with their goals and their plans a lot longer than people who pay attention to with what other people think, with what the social media think, and all those things, right? So I used to go back and forth, and I couldn't figure out why is my life volatile, and my emotions are so volatile. And it's because I started to pay attention rather than what I thought about myself. I started to think about what other people think about myself, right? So that's something I think certain things that for you to keep in mind and keep setting the goals, or keeps going out about. Recognize there are influences that sometimes does come externally, but that's part of the, I recognize as the challenge actually, right? So keep going, Neha. I think that's still you're doing the right way. So the next important thing is that before we move on is to talk about essentially the nine, how to create a, actually need to make a quick fix here. Should be called 90-day.
Thanks, Dulik. Yeah, really appreciate the support. Thanks.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Um, so yeah, one of the main things that will also make you concentrate and make you focus is basically for the 5 goals, to your best of your ability, come up with action plan, or essentially a list of actions. Again, these are essentially what I would call like scientific way to set goals and achieve them. Because I see a lot of people set goals and they say they want this thing, they don't, first of all, they don't even write it down. So writing down, we talk about the importance of it's very key. And then like prioritizing the top 5, and then now write down like action plan, at least 30 activities you can do to get closer to that 5 goals. The activities in my can change. Honestly, it's okay for it to change, but the fact that you actually write it down and that you check them off is really key to following up with your goals and your plan. So very important thing I've seen in the workplace, that a lot of, believe it or not, a lot of people I don't see doing this stuff. Like I work and I coach a lot of people in my teams, and I don't see a lot of people working do it. And then when I started to look into how the pros do it, I started to see a huge difference why the performance are different. So make sure you practice this. Like plan your life 90 days at a time, like you would like a semester in school, and then focus on basically writing down the efforts that you can do, right? So, like if it's going to the gym thing, right, say that, you're going to go to the gym, say you want to, lose 20 pounds or whatever, 36 times. Go to the gym 36 times this semester or this quarter or the next 90 days. So 36 times is essentially 3 times a week, right? So plan things that are out that way, and then focus on what you can control. And another thing, I didn't really write a point on it, but focus on your inputs rather than your outputs. Like for example, like when you're studying for an exam, you cannot really determine what grade you get, right? But the thing is, you can determine how many hours you study, right? That's the things like that. The same thing with when you're getting landing a job. You cannot determine whether you will land a job tomorrow or not, but you can, take the right actions to do your resume right, cover letter, and then apply for 100 jobs and those things, right? You can track them, right? And that's what I'm saying. Track those activities, that write them and track them, and then celebrate the effort that you have taken. Very important one I see in highly effective people, right? Because sometimes your actions might not land, right? Because in project management, you will see something. I don't remember if it's the exact terminology. Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's a difference between like delivering and landing, right? Where you might have taken action, all the right actions, but it might not gotten you the right results. So the fact that at least you have taken the right actions is actually key. So that's what you should be focusing on doing, and focusing on writing down the actions and taking it. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. So this is kind of the kind of an example one I kind of put together for myself. I mean, there's a section on reasons as well. So for example, you kind of talk about the goal, you have your due date, and you kind of talk about, remind yourself, like, why do you even have this goal? It's the importance of motivation. I see it, right? So I learned, right, understanding your reasons, or in business world known as knowing the business case or reasons, kind of will help you motivate to stay with your goal, right? And then listing out all the tasks that you need to do to achieve that goal. So, again, you can search online on how to, what ideal tasks you can do to get close to that goal, or you can brainstorm by yourself first. So all that. So track it that way. It will make it essentially easier to see how well you're performing. Whether, that way, having this is good enough, I would say, a result itself, because you're taking the right actions, right? So something for you to kind of think about to build something like that. If anyone wants it, I can actually send it. I do have it on my newsletter.
Yes. Thank you.
Let me see. Yes, let me actually send you on that chat. I just want to make sure if I have the right project management one. Goal achievement template. Let's see. Okay, I'll send it to this one. So yeah, I'm going to be adding a lot more stuff onto my course. I'll give you a link to like stay in touch with the newsletter for that, because I'm kind of taking a few beta testers for that program. So you can let me know if you're interested. Apps that similar layer. I actually, that's a great question, Kayla. So the closest thing, I mean, you probably know, right? And like Notion and things like that. But I kind of customize this thing on my own to make it work for me. Do you know what I mean? So I really, because it's kind of design. I kind of designed it like, no, I have to have my own system, because the ones I see, like things like Trello, Notion, other stuff is not kind of fitting my need properly, because I want something simple enough I can use, like even my phone quickly, right? So something for you to kind of, I don't know too many apps, to be honest, right now, Kayla. So sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, so that's very important actually. So that's why I'm kind of emphasizing on staying with the goal setting one. It's actually a like journaling and goal setting. If you do those two, it actually can have a huge impact long term, right? So that's why I tell everybody who's coming into my workshops and my training is that, start writing things down and start setting small goals, and then get to big ones over time. Okay, so there's some of the examples I've kind of put in. Like I tell people, for my clients and executives, even when I'm working with companies, is like, achieving your peace of mind and happiness is the key, right? Because if have all the money you have, all the job titles, if you don't have peace of mind and happiness, being yourself, being by yourself, it's no point. So if you're gonna make it one of your first goals, it should be setting is as is peace of mind and seeking happiness. So that's something I tell everybody, right? And things like in deepening one's spiritual connection could be a good one. Achieving a specific job title within your field, launching a successful business, or a business you're passionate about, right? Like even a service, completing a high profile project or initiative, like writing a book, right? Or like launching your social media channel, or pursuing a degree or certification. So it could be really anything, right? So that's what I want to kind of tell you. And like things like also developing specific skills and body weight and multiple income streams. So all can be things I've thought of as goals that you can set for your lifetime, and then you can kind of backward 5-year goal, and then 90 days, so forth. So you can kind of like reverse engineer it once you started to set your lifetime goals. So these are some of the things that you can think about when you're setting them. Very important um, key skill to learn when you're developing your personal development. Okay, so any other questions about project management? Sorry, goal setting. Sorry about that. No? Okay, perfect. Yeah, just even if anything comes up, just ask away. We'll get that answered for you. Okay. And then the next one is basically a pattern I recognize is how much, highly successful individuals, even something that I started to do, and I can see a huge difference is like actually dedicating time in my day to read books and take courses is had a huge impact, and it's a common practice among I see in highly successful people, either they're in business or even in sports. And I see like people like Steph Curry, Jeff Bezos, Tom Brady. Like these guys are readers. They read books. They have coaches. They take about their own development very seriously, right? Because I mean, one of the things I'll tell you is like many people kind of wait till their employer to invest in their education and their development, and I think this is a very risky thing to do. Because one of the things I tell people, you need to start looking at your own self as a company that you're developing and investing and building. And if you're not willing to do that, waiting for somebody else to do that is a very dangerous and risky thing. Because what if they never do? And what if what they recommend, what they think is right for you is only right for them? What if it's not right for you? So make sure that when you start investing in your own education by it could be reading books or taking courses or going to workshops like this, right? I mean, I'm kind of could be preaching to the choir here, because you are in a personal development workshop, but it is a very important thing to do daily, right? To practice taking courses and reading books. And it's a practice that I learned from, I didn't mention it, but from a personal development expert known as Brian Tracy. And he calls it the golden hour rule. And he's a pattern that he has recognized a lot of professionals do in top of their field is to read 1 hour a day or study 1 hour a day. And he called it the golden hour rule. Like, you can, if it's, 1 hour is too much, you can start with 30 minutes or so. Like, practice the, even smaller. If you have a hard time doing it, go like 5 minutes even. But it's just little habits of a huge impact, right? So something for you to kind of think about and do. And obviously audiobooks, newsletters, and podcasts really works really well as well. And then make sure that you keep your journal and then write some of the lessons that you learn and see how you can apply what you learn in your life or professional work, right? So that's a very key important thing. And when I tell people when they're learning is start with reading and taking books, not necessarily, what would be good for your career, but something you initially, if you're not used to it, is start with things you love reading, right? Start taking courses you love, get into that practice and the habit. Once that habit is going, once that is going, then you can start doing things that are more relevant, that can actually improve your skills further and put you, even a little bit more uncomfortable. Because I see a lot of people who are trying to, how it's, you grow in uncomfort, enduring uncomfort. It is true, but if you're always uncomfortable and always stressed out and anxious, you're not going to continue to be uncomfortable to grow. So first, you need to establish a foundation that you have an easier time, practicing and learning and doing the activity you need. Then once that is become comfortable, then you can push forward. But creating a foundation, what I mean is essentially is reading something you love or like at least 30 minutes to 1 hour a day to get that habit going. And you will see that your capacity to work, I noticed this, and I noticed in a lot of people as well, your capacity to work and understand information will increase like no like there's no tomorrow. That's It's one of the biggest ones I've seen is it's that it definitely increase your capacity to learn and increase, so make sure that you keep this advice in your mind when you're going forward. Okay, so that's something. And then yeah, so like if you have a hard time, like I would say, like even if it's, like I said, starting this one, for a lot of people, the reading books is a problem. Like audiobooks is fine as well. So there's a lot of audiobooks available on YouTube, right? So start with that if you don't have a budget to do that. And there's a lot of audiobooks available on YouTube. So I'm going to give you a couple of recommendations. But some of these ones you probably already have seen, but there are ones that seems to be keep coming up. For like example, like How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's I tell, a lot of people tell me they have read it, but then I ask them, can you tell me the 30 principles in there? Many people can't. So a lot of people tell they study, they know it, they read it, but they cannot even mention 10 of them. So I would say, study this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, like it's a textbook, like a course, right? It's a really good book in terms of developing great relationships, because you realize your professional success primarily comes from how well you deal with people and how much you get along, right? So make sure you know the 30 principles inside and out in that book. And another book that will really good for you will be like Maximum Achievement. It's a very personal development heavy book, right? But it's a book that I kind of really enjoy reading, because that's the one that kind of got me started in that direction of developing myself personally. So something for you to take a look at. And then Atomic Habits is a great book if you want to develop habits, but he talks a lot about starting your habits really small and systemizing it, right? Like having a system to do it, having reasons to do it. So that's really important as well. And the next really good book is one of my favorites, actually. What I would say, my favorite subject matter and my specialist subject matter as well, which is the mind, which is The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. So that's a really good book if you want to learn how to reprogram your subconscious mind, learn about what your subconscious mind can do for you and things like that. And again, that's my favorite subject matter and favorite area. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We're going to be on the next session, next slide. We're going to be talking about the mind a little bit further. And then also there's a really great book called A Course in Miracles by Helen Schuckman. So this is tend to be a more of a mind training, a spiritual text in nature. So this is a little bit advanced, might be advanced to some of them. Some of you have already come across it and used it and have experiences with it. So it's a quite a interesting book, actually. Yeah, go ahead, Izu.
And
Oh,
I
there
was
we go.
saying, I read the Course in Miracles for sure. It is a heavier book. However, once you go through it a couple of times, the material in there really does help you understand how the subconscious and your emotions can be
Right.
controlled. Right.
Right. That's a very good point. It's very, yeah, it's a very, it's a pretty extensive, but again, something I left it here, but not necessarily, but these are some of the places that you can essentially get going and start with. Okay. Any questions about that? Perfect. All right. So, one of the let me see a question. Go ahead, Christine.
In the book there, when it's talking about making a system, is it the same as what you're talking about in the slides here with goal setting and creating a system?
Say that one more time, Christine. I didn't
So
hear.
on the book over there, habits, is it the same as what you're talking about here of making a system for to make it like to manifest it?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's basically it's a teamwork habit, same thing as making. I like for me like some of the system itself that what I use a little bit different. But in terms of like with the goals that you have, like what I have like what I have specifically set up to like as like the 25 goals and the 5 goal system is actually kind of a system I created, and maybe it might be a little bit different from the James Clear method, to be honest, Christine. Yeah. But I would say it's like the biggest thing I see, because we'll talk about the subconscious mind and how law of attraction works actually, is the fact that we'll get into that point, is the fact that you write them down and you think about it all the time, and you take action on that thing that you wrote on. It seems to be the key thing that activates the law of attraction on your subconscious mind. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. But as long as the key principles I've seen, as long as you write your goal, write your actions down, and you take some sort of action to make it happen, that is essentially the progress of activating the law of attraction. Okay. And another thing is, like, I see a lot of people actually having a hard time with essentially managing their time and productivity. So this is one of the things that I say, like knowing, like having all your tasks in your head is not a good idea. So one of the main things I would say, like once you established your goals, once you know especially things that you have to do for your work, have all your tasks written down in one place. For example, it could be a spreadsheet, or it could be even your journal. But I would say using some sort of like an Excel file or a spreadsheet, and having everything written down, and then check them off as you complete them, and make sure that, like, as you have your tasks in one place, and then you order them based on your urgency and the importance that you want to complete them as well. Because if you don't organize based on the urgency and the importance, you might not know when things need to complete. So make sure you have written down all the things in one place, organized based on the urgency and importance, right? And then block the activity into your calendar to complete them, right? Because if you don't allocate actual time to complete, you might not not get into the path of you actually completing it, right? So that's important to remember. And then make sure that for every work session, everything that you put on your as your task in your calendar, you have an objective. Like, for example, like say that I'm preparing for this presentation, I would allocate like 90 minutes, and then I would say complete preparing 20 slides for the presentation. So I'll be very specific, and it will be a very completion mentality, what I would say. So I'm going to try to complete it, right? It might not be always successful. Sometimes I need more time, but the mentality I'm going in is with a clear objective of wanting to complete it. So that's very important to remember when you're proceeding and moving forward with your goals. Okay. And then also planning the day and a week in advance. So one of the main things I see in highly successful individuals is that they have a tendency to plan their day, right? Write down the tasks they're going to do for the day, and they write down all the things they're going to do in the week. They're going to have that planned out. So make sure that you can have that planned out, you have that going as well. It will make your work, and it will make your progression a lot more easier to deal with. Okay. And make sure that you also don't multitask while you're working. Another a big problem I see that seems to, it's actually when I was doing a lot of research, a lot of my clients, a lot of executive have a tendency to multitask, and they don't focus on deep work. Right? Deep work means like allocating undisturbed work on specific tasks and getting it done before moving on to multiple things like checking emails and things like that. So make sure that you actually don't multitask and work on one task at a time, because it will prevent you from like losing energy, getting tired during the day faster and things like that as well. Okay. Very important one to remember, because I see a lot of people get caught up doing multitasking, including me sometimes, but it's something that I've definitely stopped more and more recently. And then also the Pomodoro technique, which is essentially working for 25 minutes and taking a 5-minute break. Again, this is not, it's only if you're having a hard time working in a concentrated fashion with objectives. If you don't have that, that's fine, but it's something I recommend for especially people who are studying for exams, for students, or just if you're having a hard time completing something, but you need to get it done. I say, use the Pomodoro technique. Essentially, you study for about 25 or work for 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break, right? And then make sure that, like I said, the record and track your tasks. It is the key to completion, and completion is the key to accomplishing your goals, right? So that mentality with your tasks and work needs to be there. Okay, is that clear so far? Is there any questions about managing time and productivity? Because this is something I see a lot of people having an issue with, and a lot of people also ask me, like, how do you manage your personal and work professional life? So what I say is that create 2 lists, right? So one for 8 hours when you're working, one for 8 hours when you're home. All right, and then organize it separate. Don't mix them up together. Have 2 different separate lists, and then work them at different times, depending on when you can. So that's something for you to remember as well. So you can do the same thing: one list for work tasks, one list for personal tasks, and then you work on them separately with urgency, and then you block time and things like that. Okay, any questions regarding productivity and managing your time? No? Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is, I would say, I don't know, this is might be a little too advanced. I mean, some of you guys have already come across this model, but this is kind of the model that I've been kind of researching more and more, and talking to people about when it comes to, how to develop your mind, to get to understanding your emotions and mastering your emotions and things like that. So I know this might be a little bit too advanced right away if you have not come across it, but stay with me and ask me questions on this model, because again, this is not a model I came up with. It's it's not like I put together. It's basically a model that I researched and I came across, and then it seems to explain a lot of the problems and a lot of the challenges that I had and my clients had, and also it seems to give a lot of steps and solutions on how to make things happen, right? So bear with me with this model. So one of the main things that I actually recognized in successful individuals is that they actually understand how their minds and other people's minds and emotion work. And that's why some of them are, when they come up with a really great product, they can, convince and influence and, make us buy things and then, earn money from that. So one of the things is that I've noticed that that they understand, whether they know this consciously or subconsciously, right? That's up to debate. But the fact that they use they use the understanding of the mind, they use the understanding of emotions of themselves and other people is very, very clear, especially when you look at athletes. They know how to manipulate their emotions and other people's emotions. They know how their mind works. They know what happens when certain emotions get activated and what others don't. Marketers know this. So whether they know this in this form, I'm not really sure, but they definitely know. Okay, so understanding for even as an individual, knowing how the mind and emotions work based on this my model might be very useful for you. So what I found about when I was researching the mind, so I've been researching the mind for about the last, since I was in university studying psychology. I realized, from my research, there's about 3 levels to the mind, specifically conscious mind, subconscious mind, and the superconscious mind. And a lot of it seems like a lot of the decision making, problem solving, where we're speaking, when we're talking about things, that happens through our conscious mind. But things like our habits, our emotions, our insecurities, our feelings, these things seems to be happening and generated at a subconscious level. So learning about the subconscious mind, specifically, how it works, it believes in something called law of belief. Like in addition to law of attraction, law of belief is there. Also there's something called law of attention, law of karma. So there's certain principles, and there's a certain what you would call laws, right? That our subconscious mind and our mind essentially works under. Learning these laws and learning how our mind work is critical to your understanding, and like to your understanding for your success and for your growth. So that's important for you to kind of remember. But the main thing that I see that a lot of people don't understand is that becoming even aware about they have a subconscious mind. Because when I ask a lot of people, who is it that who's pumping your blood right now, who's pumping your heart, or you're executing your digestive system, right, healing your wounds, who's doing that, right? And it's like, oh, it's not me. Yeah, so that's the subconscious mind. So learning how to program and activate your subconscious mind is something I've seen in successful people. They know how to do to help them achieve their goals, including habit formation and habit change. Okay, so that's at the subconscious level. And at the superconscious level, there's what I would call your intuition and creativity and infinite intelligence. So again, your mind can access these coins, and these things are continually working. Your mind is essentially continually working within you. Even when you're sleeping, it's active, right? So it's something to kind of get to understand about. But one of the main things I see that, like, how it relates to our conversation about goals and habits and things like that, is that, like, one of the things that I noticed in people is like their self-talk, right? Like a lot of the self-talk that we have coming from our subconscious, and it's coming from a place of we are programming our mind through our own exposure, through the books we read, through the people we choose to talk to, right? We are programming our own mind, specifically our subconscious. So basically, we are using our conscious mind to program our subconscious mind with the content. So think of your conscious mind, right? Is the gardener, right? The conscious mind is the gardener, and the subconscious mind is the garden, right? And you're basically the gardener, which is you using the garden to basically plant ideas, emotions, thoughts, beliefs, right? So based on these beliefs, emotions, and thoughts, you affect and influence your reality. This is why people say, what you say can influence your reality. What you do, all of these things, if you into these metaphysical, so you probably heard about that, right? So the reason how the basis of it works is that the subconscious mind, it does actually have an influence. That's why when you're angry, you cannot do very creative things, right? That's why when you're happy and feeling joyful, you're playing, you're a lot more creative. So that's because the mood of the subconscious mind is reflected, right? So keeping your subconscious mind, seeing your subconscious mind as your best friend, and taking care of your mind, and not being harmful to you, or criticizing and critical to you, is actually is very important for this reason, because I know some people enjoy having negative self-talk about themselves and other people. Many people believe this has no effect on them. This has an effect. It actually has a reverberating effect, right? So deciding to basically to watch your thoughts and beliefs and changing them, right? Changing the way you talk to yourself, changing the way you believe if you're not getting results you have been getting, is actually the first step to change the functioning of your subconscious mind. And one of the things I forgot to clarify is also your subconscious mind tend to be very powerful, and it tends to be very habitual in nature, right? So for example, like if you continue to watch a specific movie or TV show, you will start to say the things they say. Or if you start to hang around with certain group of people without you knowing, you will start to talk like they do, right? That's because of your subconscious mind being influenced and reprogrammed. So it's very important what you expose yourself to if you want to get specific results. And one of the biggest law of belief, one of the biggest laws that our subconscious mind works under is the law of belief. Essentially, it's whatever you believe to be true, your subconscious will try to make it a reality for you, right? That's what you probably also heard about, something known as a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's basically the same thing. So whatever you truly strongly believe, okay, no, this is true, you will start to actually see it materialize. Longer you start to believe it, the more you believe it. So that's why it's important to have only positive beliefs about yourself, right? And positive beliefs about other people. So basically you're starting to manifest only the positivity in your life. Otherwise, if you started to hold negative beliefs about yourself and other people, right, you started to manifest negativity. So learning how to change your beliefs, if it's no longer serving you, or changing your thoughts, is actually becomes it becomes our responsibility. And it becomes also important for your success and growth and development in the long term, because this is a big one I didn't understand for a long time. Like I thought I was setting goals, I was doing everything right, but how come I'm not getting the results I want in my reality? And then I realized it's because my thinking wasn't correct. Like as soon as I do good work, I would also put myself down for not completing everything, right? So that might just put myself down and made it a negative reality for myself. The best thing is to do is like appreciate the effort I put, bless the effort I put, thank the effort, right? Praise myself for the effort, and then look forward to doing it again. And just do the same thing for other people, rather than being envious about other success and thinking how come they can have that. Just recognize maybe they have to work really hard, just as you have to work really hard to get what you want to get. They probably worked really hard to get, right? So that's why having that mentality to create that environment, right, especially a subconscious environment that is positive, is important for your personal life. Or you might say, what, it's like, I do actually have negative emotions towards other people and myself, and it's okay. Like we can get rid of them automatically or right away. It's a systematic process of reprogramming. And one of the biggest ways I saw to essentially change the programming of the mind is first, obviously, decide, what, I want to change it, and start holding beliefs that if I were to believe them, they come real. If it has to be positive. So deciding is the first thing, and then basically continually like learning, basically personal development, reading books, taking courses that can improve yourself. You're reprogramming your mind. And it's gonna, the results of it in reality, like in physical reality, it will manifest. But it does, I noticed there is a delay though. There is a, like, for example, if you started to do personal development stuff, the effects of it tend to be like, it takes a year or 2-3 years to fully manifest, right? Because the physical realities have certain delays. But if you continue with the activity, it will definitely, the programming will do occur, and it will affect your life in the future. Okay, so it's something for you to, I don't know how much of this makes sense, but essentially that's the idea, is that understanding your mind and emotions key. And you will see it, because your emotions, basically subconscious, are also responsible for your emotions. So the way emotions work is that The way I look at emotions as basically excess energy or energy that you're basically directed to different things. So for example, if you have a lot of conflicting energy or conflicting thoughts, you want to do this but you don't have time to do this, and that creates conflict energy or energy within you, and you don't have a way to deal with it, or like a problem solving skills, right? You will get nervous, you will have like emotional breakdowns. But if you can write them down and say like, what, I'm emotional about this, I have this issue, you can work with your subconscious mind and your conscious mind to make that problem easier to deal with. So understand a lot, because a lot of the time we have our emotional problems or emotional challenges is coming from, we have a lot of unagreeable beliefs that are basically fighting within us. So if we want to make peace with our subconscious mind, one of the main things that I recommend is like make it just recognize it's okay that you have certain beliefs as you do. Be willing to change it to the truth, be willing to change it to whatever that is true over time, like how you're learning personal development, right? Which is you're trying to yield into the thing that will help your life eventually. Same with your subconscious mind. And when you have beliefs, is that when you learn about your subconscious mind, you start to have a lot of, because you realize a lot of your beliefs are what your subconscious mind is held together. And when you're willing to release things that are not good for you, or beliefs that are that other people have for you that you also believe, you will start to have an easier time living with your mind and your subconscious mind specifically, and be able to achieve your goal more successfully. But again, like understanding how the subconscious mind and the conscious mind is a long conversation. But the first, I would say, becoming aware that you're not responsible for the problem sometimes you thought yourself, is basically to deal with you not learning how to program your subconscious mind to get the results you want. You will see that if you once you learn how to put the steps in, you'll be able to get the results a lot quicker than you think, especially when it comes to your goals and things like that. Because it's just, there is a little bit of massaging, taking time, treating the subconscious mind the right way for it to get it working for you and helping you accomplish your goals. Because what actually end up accomplishing your goals is your subconscious mind bringing things into your reality through its full infinite power, right? So there might be a lot of questions, but I want to see if anyone have any specific questions, how it relates to their situation or the mind or anything. Please ask away, because this is what I would say would be one of my biggest findings that can influence people's life if they learn how to use their subconscious mind the right way, because it can heal your body, achieve your goals, and help you become happier, help you develop great relationships. The key basis is that you're deciding to change, and then you're blessing the aspect of this, blessing things, like blessing yourself, blessing other people. It's very important aspect, or at least you wish the good things for them and good things for you, right? And then this aspect is very important, that goes hand in hand with your subconscious mind. And then this is also why, like some people say, you got to do this affirmation, you got to do this affirmation. But when I started to do affirmation, I never felt like, I don't believe it. But now I understand why affirmations are important, because you need it for train your subconscious mind through repetition, for it to think in certain ways. That's why affirmations become super useful, to retrain your subconscious mind over time. Okay. I don't know. Ask away if anyone has any questions. So I do see some questions we'll be able to watch later. Yes, I'll send you a video for this one, and it's a goal setting apps. I honestly use Google Sheets for now, for me to track myself, because I kind of create my own thing, right? But honestly, there's like things like Trello that is pretty good, that I've used before, but that seems to be the one that I enjoy, is essentially Google Sheets. Okay, so, but yeah, if anyone has any specific questions about training their mind, I know this is a little bit of a deeper subject matter, and there are certain things like I've come across, like how to let go of feeling down, or like making unconscious decisions to let go of past hurt, grievances, and anger. I realized it had a huge effect on me. And when I used to have these emotions, I honestly thought it was okay to have them, right? I was like, what, everybody has them, and we're all dealing with them. But when I made a conscious decision to like let go of these emotions from my subconscious mind, like saying, look, I don't want to feel these things anymore, this is not how I want to feel, I want to say if there's another way I can feel, right? And making the conscious decisions was actually a very important step that I had to make with my subconscious mind to kind of leave behind the past that was hurting, or grievances, or anything that I thought that was unresolved. But I realized is a lot of the time that we struggle with our emotions is because we tend to remember our past hurt and past grievances, not being able to kind of let go. So what I decided to do, focus on, I focus on validating it. Like I'm not, it's not that I condone if somebody has hurt me or give me issues. I don't condone it. I just say, it's like, no, I'm willing to let go from my mind so I can move on for my personal reasons on the issue, and then move on with my goals and my life, right? So it's an important step that I recognize in order to heal my subconscious mind to and go ahead with my goals. Because I realize sometimes what prevents me from hitting my goals is not a lot of my actions. It's because sometimes I cannot control my emotions. Sometimes my past about something I didn't do, or something comes on the way and interferes with my mode, right? Or mood, sorry. And then I cannot take action, and that prevents, and it makes you feel disappointed. So I realized, no, I got to work on these emotions. Where are they coming from? And it's coming, I realize, coming from having certain beliefs and holding on to things, and then it stays in your subconscious minds and gives all kinds of problems that I didn't know about, right? So that's what happened in my situation. So please, ask away if you have any questions specifically about the subconscious mind. And if not, we can kind of go on to the next slides. But let me see what we have for the next ones. So yeah, I got a more affirmation, but I'll put that on our slide there so you can take a look. So I have a affirmation that seems to be really effective. Like a power. I don't know how much you believe in this stuff, but something I'm testing out and seems to be really effective was these two affirmation that I've been experimenting with right now. That seems to be effective. It just seems to be the correcting certain thinking, certain patterns that I have, right? So something to think about. And then I want to talk to you about a little bit about improving the state and the quality of in relationships. And like I said, like I recommend for everybody, make sure you read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. It will have a huge impact in your personal relationships once you fully understand the 30 lessons, right? So main things I tell, like everybody enjoy praises, appreciation, and compliments, whether it's your husband, wife, mom, dad, everyone, right? So everybody, including your coworkers, and your work, is everybody just responds to praises and appreciations, right? So even if you have to criticize somebody, don't criticize them right away. Praise them or appreciate or compliment them with something that you really do like about them, right? And then go ahead. But the thing is, I would say, is like you can be, like win a lot more friends and like actually influence people, right? If you're actually willing to praise people and appreciate them and give them compliment, because everybody's looking for and everybody's doing their best. From what I see, that's what I say. I think people are doing their best with what they got, right? And if they can do better, they would do better. And the only reason they can't do any better because they have hit limit with psychologically, that's all they can do. So if you want to improve somebody's capability, one of the best things you can do is praise them and appreciate them and compliment them, which includes yourself as well. Appreciating yourself for your efforts, for the work you have done. It's very important. It's very important personal development. It's important for your high performance, actually, right? So something for you to remember. And then avoiding arguments with people. This is an important one. There might be other people, there might be few friends and family, you can have thoughtful discussions that you can go back and forth. But I had this tendency to, I used to pick arguments with random people, right? And I didn't know that had an effect in my mind and in my relationship. I didn't know at that time, and it did. What happens is that when you have arguments with people, you're, even when those people are not around you, your own subconscious mind started to argue with yourself about these things. So that's something you need to remember. And also, when you argue with other people, right, it doesn't put it in a negative, in a positive mode, right? It doesn't put in a people in a positive mode. So avoiding and picking your argument, or picking who you have arguments, is very important. Have taught me to talk, discussions with people. Like, if anyone want to talk about like discuss me, I love that. But arguing and trying to prove somebody else is wrong is a very dangerous situation to put yourself in. So it can affect in your psyche. So that's one of the things I used to be very argumentative myself, but I was like, you know what, I wonder why my blood pressure is high, and it was because I argued a lot, and now it's not as high. So there are certain things like that, right? So, and also, using people's first name, and it's their favorite word, right? So learning how to, one of the first things I learned when I was working at Oracle is learning how to, when I work at client services, that's the first role I had, right? So was learn how to use people's first name, because it makes you, it's their favorite word, right? And they like people who say their favorite word. And if you're wrong, right, if you're wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Like, if you are, even if you get into an argument with somebody, and if you're wrong about something, just admit it quickly. No, I'm actually wrong about this. I didn't see this correctly. It makes other people respect you, right? It makes other people want to talk with you and discuss things with you, right? So something to keep in mind. And then be interested in other people, right, sincerely, because how do you feel when other people are truly interested in you? You feel good, right? And then listen to people, right? Be a good listener. Ask them questions, because at the end of the day, I follow the golden rule: do unto others is done upon you, right? So if you want to be listened, if you like to be appreciated, if you like somebody else to pay attention to you, very likely other people like the same stuff as you do, right? So, like, keeping in mind when you developing your relationships, it's to keep in mind. And then never say you're wrong, right? Something that I used to do it a lot accidentally. I didn't know it, I mean, now I know, obviously. When you say you're wrong, it just, even when you're talking about a meaning, and even if you're right, when you tell us somebody else is wrong, it just put them in a defensive, and it puts them in a negative mood. They don't want to listen to you after that, right? Instead of saying you're wrong, I kind of see things a little bit differently, or you can say, that's a very interesting perspective. That's very interesting. But I see kind of things like this, right? You can position things like that instead of saying you're wrong upfront and make people feel bad, right? So something to keep in mind. And then smile with people, right? And many people who, like, it's a free, you can smile for free. It doesn't charge any money. So, but you can have a huge impact in your career, in your personal life, when you smile people, because people are craving for smiles and happy people, and there's not enough smiles going around. So that's one of the things that I say, again, improve your, because I would say in close like 80% of your success in life comes down to how good your relationships are, and smiling can go a long way in improving the state, right, of your relationship. So try doing it more, and then being enthusiastic and friendly overall, right? So like when you meet somebody new, be enthusiastic, be happy to see them, and be friendly with them, right? So these are the kind of the points that I kind of discovered that seems to be working for me and for my clients.